The O'Reilly Factor is on tonight.
If you make more than $200,000, $250,000 a year, you should have to pitch into Medicare just like everybody else because you're going to be using it like everybody else.
Is President Obama focusing in on wealthy Americans to fund his big government agenda?
It's a concept of fairness.
We'll take a look at some of the unintended consequences of his Soak the Rich tax plan.
Caution, you are about to enter the no-spin zone. The Factor begins right now. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham, reporting tonight for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us. Taking from the rich and giving to the poor. That's the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. You know how certain things that your parents used to say stick in your head? Well, today, with Democrats hitting up the rich at every turn, I'm reminded of my mother's favorite line about the welfare state. She used to say, "What happens when everyone wants to climb onto the wagon and there's no one left to pull it?" Scott Hodge of the Tax Foundation asked this: are you a giver or a taker? Meaning, are you among those citizens who pay taxes, a giver, or those who pay no income tax at all, a taker? Back in 2008, 34% of Americans had no federal tax liability whatsoever. And experts are estimating that for the 2009 tax year, almost half will be paying nothing. They'll be takers. While the tax code has always given the poorest among us exemptions, President Obama has extended the free ride to the middle-class families with programs such as the homebuyer credit or the Making Work Pay credit. This means that the tax burden for all 300 million of us will increasingly fall on the shoulders of a very small subset of taxpayers. In his 2011 budget, President Obama has big tax hike plans for the top 10% of our income earners. The Bush-era tax cuts will expire for these Americans, further driving up their already exorbitant tax bills. And sadly, as Mr. Hodge reminds us, more Americans today think that the money taken from upper-income earners is free money with no consequences. Well, this simply perverts the system further because it saps initiative from the givers and the takers. Yet, as the Wall Street Journal has noted, and this is really important, if Uncle Sam took all the money that the top 2% of earners made, it still wouldn't be enough to pay for the Obama budget-busting agenda. The Obama economic team knows this. That's why we're now hearing all this talk of a value-added tax or maybe a national sales tax on top of the other tax increases. Consider this staggering fact. The top 1% of wage earners in America pay more than 40% of the overall tax bill for the nation. And the left is still arguing that the system is not progressive enough? And this stunner, more Americans than ever before are deciding to leave our country for good because of high taxes and onerous regulations. If we continue down this road of vilifying and penalizing prosperity, we'll have gone from soaking the rich to sinking them all together. And then there will be no one left to pull the wagon. And that's the memo. And now for the top story tonight, reaction. Joining us now from New York is Mark Levine. He's a radio talk show host and a former congressional attorney. And Fox Business anchor Stuart Varney, whose program Varney and Company airs weekdays at 9:20 a.m. All right, gentlemen, first I'm going to go to Mark because, Mark, I know you were chomping at the bit there during Talking Points. Take your best shot. Where did I go wrong in my analysis?
Well, the first thing you did going wrong was you compared the federal income tax burden to the entire tax burden. That's a common conservative mind trick. But middle class and poor people pay more Social Security taxes as a percentage of their income than the rich. There are all kinds of taxes other than federal income taxes. The Social Security burden, as I mentioned, if you make $100,000 a year, you pay 7.5% of your income. If you make $1 million a year, you pay less than 1% of your income. You make $10 million a year, you pay less than 1/10% of your income. So this is a regressive tax, one that favors the rich at the expense of the poor. But you're not going to talk about that one, are you, Laura?
All right, so you think that the rich don't pay enough taxes. And just before we get to Stuart, what would the right top bracket be for you to make it all totally fair?
I think if we go back to the Clinton years, a 39.6% bracket, you got to remember the economy was better in the Clinton years than practically any time in American history. We had overall expansion. The rich got richer and the middle class got richer and the poor got richer too. That's a fair burden. And remember, in those days we had a surplus.
All right, so 39% plus the increases in the Medicare taxes that we're going to have, as well as other increases in taxes down the road. Stuart, you heard talking points. You can react to what Mark said. This is a regressive tax code.
Oh, look, Mark is lost in the weeds. He should open his eyes and take a look at Europe, because that's where we're heading. Europe is paralyzed with debt, subject to massive entitlement programs, a very high rate of unemployment, and riddled with anxiety. We are going down that road with our taxation policies. And when we enact a VAT, a hidden sales tax, we'll go even further down that road. It is profoundly un-American. We're going to resemble Europeans, who are essentially a pack of pagan losers, and I don't want to go in that direction. Sorry, I don't want to do it.
Oh, boy, here comes the emails from Europe. Now, Mark, what I heard from some Democrats over the last couple of days when the VAT tax, the value-added tax, was mentioned, I heard some people say, well, look, if we have to do this, it's only because we have to dig ourselves out of the Bush hole, all his spending and everything he did. Do you think that blame Bush mentality is going to work now into the second year of the Obama term?
Laura, I don't know what Democrats you've talked to. I haven't heard a single Democratic politician propose a VAT tax. In fact, I'm only hearing it from people on the right, from Charles Krauthammer, from you, Monica Crowley. Oh. No Democrat in their right mind.
All really smart people, by the way.
Wait a minute.
Well, no Democrat in their right mind.
Ben Bernanke yesterday, Stuart, you can jump in, but Bernanke yesterday said, look, we're either going to have to cut entitlements, cut spending, or we're going to have to think about another way to generate revenue. What else are you going to do? You can only go back to the rich so often, and you're still not going to raise enough money.
It is the top guns, it is the top guns, the top economic guns in the Obama administration who are openly talking about a value-added tax, or a carbon tax, or some way of taxing what we spend our money on as opposed to our income. It is a massive tax increase on the middle class, and it's coming. There is a deficit reduction commission that is currently sitting. It reports on December the 1st. Almost inevitably, it will recommend a consumption tax, and President Obama will go along with it and say, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to tax the middle class. The commission made me do it. That's the road we are headed down.
That's passing the buck. Hey, Mark, do you think it's actually a cool thing? I mean, just looking at, you talk about fairness, economic fairness, for half of the country to pay no federal income tax whatsoever? You think that's tax fairness?
Do you think it's fair for a person who makes $10 million a year to pay virtually no Social Security tax?
Yeah, they made the money. Did they steal it or did they make it?
At the end of the day,
that's the kind of vilification of the wealth that has gotten the Democrats in the approval hole that they're in right now. It is a soak the rich mentality that is going to destroy the free enterprise system as we know it. What's the point of growing your business
today? At the end of the day, all we're going to do is go back to the Clinton tax rates, which, need I recall, are lower than the Reagan tax rates. A lot of, Republicans praise Ronald Reagan.
Not when you add the rest of the tax increases to it, Mark. Not when you add the other increases that are provided for in the other part of the budget of President Obama. It's going to be going up.
The only thing President Obama is adding in the health care law is requiring the rich to pay the same percentage of Medicare taxes that the poor middle class made. He's making it a flat tax, which I thought Republicans supported. Let me reassure you, let me reassure Stuart, there will be no VAT.
America is all about going as far as your brains, drive, talent, and ability let you go, and keeping as much of the money as you make as possible and spending it as freely as you wish to spend it. That is America. We're not going down that road. We're going down the road to Greece, and it's a very sad thing.
All right, gentlemen, we appreciate it. I'm kicking off a Hug a Rich Person campaign here tonight on the O'Reilly Factor. They're the ones who give all the jobs. Anyway, we appreciate it. Next on the rundown, there's